have the right meds when you get sick, particularly when your kids get sick. You don't want to be going into the doctor's office, spending all the time. You want to have them at your home. So if you have a few months supply, you don't have to worry. And that's what we're doing here. If you believe in medical freedom, okay, and taking care of your family, as I do, this is the pharmacy for you. So please go to allfamilypharmacy.com/Bill. Use code Bill10 to save 10%. Now the O'Reilly Update brings you something you might not know. 51 years ago today, President Gerald Ford issued a pardon to draft dodgers and deserters who refused to fight in the Vietnam War. Here is the story. Beginning in 1964, more than 2 million Americans were drafted into military service. The names were selected by a lottery linked to their date of birth. As the war was very controversial, some avoided conscription by enrolling in college, others claiming religious or medical exemptions. As many as 500,000 Americans refused to fight. 200,000 were charged with evading the draft, including boxer Muhammad Ali, whose conviction was eventually overturned by the Supreme Court. Some Dodgers were arrested and sentenced to 18 months in prison. Others were fined $5,000. 50,000 Americans fled to Canada or Mexico to avoid the draft. After a decade of bloodshed, the Vietnam War finally ended in January 1973. On September 16, 1974, President Ford issued a proclamation granting pardon to some draft dodgers, providing they work in a public service job for 2 years. Those who actually fled the country were not eligible for amnesty. Ford, a veteran of World War II, hoped the pardons would heal the divided country. He said, quote, "This reconciliation calls for an act of mercy to bind the nation's wounds and to heal the scars of divisiveness," unquote. Some veterans groups condemned Ford's proclamation, claiming the act condoned desertion. The public also did not approve. After the pardon, Ford's approval rating fell from 50 to 37%. He lost to Democrat Jimmy Carter 2 years later in the presidential election. Carter then issued an unconditional pardon for all draft dodgers. And here's something else you might not know. The most popular destination for Americans who refused to fight in Vietnam was Toronto, Canada. Despite the pardons, 40,000 U.S. citizens remained in Toronto after the war. That exiled community exists to this day. Back in a moment. If you own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles and have an auto warranty about to expire or have no warranty, listen up. Car Shield is a low-cost month-to-month vehicle protection plan. It's now available to the public. You can save out-of-pocket expenses on future auto repairs. Please call Car Shield now to find out how you can pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. 800-881-0365 for a free quote. This protection plan is at an all-time low price. Drivers who activate
K270BW Belfast, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
Breaking news this hour from Town Hall. I'm Keith Peters in Washington. Tyler Robinson, the accused assassin of Charlie Kirk, faces a charge of aggravated murder in Utah, a charge that could bring the death penalty if he's convicted. Utah County Attorney Jeff Gray.
I am filing a notice of intent to seek the death penalty. I do not take this decision lightly, and it is a decision I have made independently as county attorney, based solely on the available evidence and circumstances and nature of the crime. Because we are seeking the death penalty, the defendant will continue to be held without bail in the Utah County Jail.
Kirk was shot and killed September 10th while hosting a rally at Utah Valley University. Israel has launched its offensive in Gaza City, vowing to overwhelm a city already in ruins from nearly 2 years of war. President Trump has a warning for Hamas.
Hours after the Israeli military began its Gaza City operation, the president warned Hamas not to use hostages as human shields.
I hear Hamas is trying to use the old human shield deal, and if they do that, they're going to be in big trouble.
The Trump administration had been hoping for a potential ceasefire, but those efforts stalled after Israel launched a military strike against Hamas leaders in Qatar, which has been serving as a mediator in peace talks. Greg Clugston, the White House.
Robert Redford has died at 89. The Hollywood golden boy who became an Oscar-winning director, liberal activist, and godfather for independent cinema died in Utah on Tuesday. His publicist didn't immediately provide a cause of death. On Wall Street, the Dow down by 125 points. The Nasdaq dropped 14. More on these stories at townhall.com.
The following is not an actor, but a real-life story from Trinity Debt Management.
My debt problem started probably about 2016. I needed my life to change financially. I called Trinity and I ended up joining based on high credit card bills and high interest rate. And my counselor at Trinity has been great, and Trinity has been helping me to get on the right path of paying off these credit card bills, bringing down the interest rate. They have consolidated my bills into one low monthly payment. And now I am finally getting out of credit card debt. So I just want to say thank you, Trinity, for showing me a better and greater path.
If you're in debt and you need help, call Trinity at 1-800-990-6976.
My name is Sharon, and soon I will be debt-free for keeps.
1-800-990-6976.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. More hot weather on the way the next 2 days. A low of 66, kind of mild in the morning, but mostly sunny, and heats up quickly on Wednesday with a high of 92. Not overly humid, so no heat index. That's good news, but it's still a hot one again on Thursday. Mostly sunny and a high of 93. We'll get into at least slight rain chances as we head into Friday and cool it back down into the 80s through the weekend. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Rodney and Jen Wallner and the entire Wallner home selling team at Berkshire Hathaway. Call them today at 314-810-SOLD. 314-810-SOLD.
Hey, it's Susie Moore. If new flooring makes you think hassle, think again, because Michaels Flooring is changing the game. For over 30 years, Michaels has been locally owned and trusted for quality, variety, and amazing service. Whether it's carpet, hardwood, laminate, luxury vinyl, or ceramic tile, their expert team makes installing new floors exciting, not stressful. That's why customers keep coming back. Visit Michaels Flooring at St. Peter's, Starting Prairie, Creve Coeur, or online at igotfloored.com. That's igotfloored.com.
I'm Missouri Attorney General Catherine Hanaway. Human trafficking is modern-day slavery, and it often hides in plain sight. Be alert. People who seem fearful, isolated, or who don't have their ID or money may need your help. To share a tip, call the National Human Trafficking Hotline at 888-373-7888. Together, we can protect victims and stop trafficking in Missouri.
Paid for by the Missouri Attorney General's Office.
For 20 years, Harpo's Chesterfield has been the heart of West County's fun, with our award-winning patio, voted best in West County, and excellent sports bar atmosphere. Our mouth-watering menu has made us famous throughout St. Louis. Plus, we've got great drink specials and the friendliest, most energetic staff around. Whether you're dining in or carrying out, Harpo's delivers fun, food, and drinks like no one else. Harpo's Chesterfield. Call 636-537-1970 or visit harposstl.com.
Summer is here, and that means it's time to gear up at Whistle Pig Outdoors on Main in Troy. Mike Ferguson here for my friends at Whistle Pig Outdoors, family owned and operated by hunters who know their stuff. Beat the heat with premium Costa sunglasses and American-made grizzly coolers that keep everything ice cold. Upgrade your bow at their full-service archery shop. Expert technician on staff for Hoyt and Bear bows. Call 636-775-1110 or visit Main Street in Troy. Whistle Pig Outdoors, your year-round outdoor headquarters.
I think you're are a little confused.
News, analysis, opinion.
I've got something to say and I can't hold it any longer.
101.9 and 94.1.
You won't hear the truth anywhere but here. News Talk STL.
News Talk STL. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now to just cheat at any cost to win elections.
You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier. You said you were, but now you got to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you.
What are we doing wrong here? As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
Today, after reviewing the evidence that law enforcement has collected thus far, I am filing a criminal information charging Tyler James Robinson, age 22, with the following crimes. Count 1, aggravated murder. Count 2, felony discharge of a firearm. Count 3, obstruction of justice for moving and concealing the rifle used in the shooting. Count 4, obstruction of justice for disposing the clothing he wore during the shooting. Count 5, witness tampering for directing his roommate to delete his incriminating texts. Count 6, witness tampering for directing his roommate to stay silent if police questioned him. And count 7, commission of a violent offense in the presence of a child. Also, following the press conference, I am filing a notice of intent to seek the death penalty.
That would be called throwing the book at somebody. Utah County District Attorney Jeffrey S. Gray, representing the good county of Utah in Provo, Utah, reading there, Chris, 7 charges, including aggravated murder in the first degree. That means they will proceed with the death penalty if there is a conviction.
And that was my question I was going to ask you. What is the difference between aggravated murder and just regular murder? I guess you just answered that. And I got to tell you, too, this is the first time I've ever heard a list of charges and the prosecutor giving a description of why they're charging this. Usually they'll just say, here's the count, here's the count, here's the count, but they usually don't tell you what's connected to that count. What do you think of that? And does that, why don't they usually do that?
Well, I think number one, and by the way, just so everybody knows, Chris, aggravated murder is in Missouri, I believe we call it murder in the first degree. Mm-hmm. Every state is allowed to have its own criminal code of state charges. And so what we would call that in Missouri is obviously different than what they would call it in Utah or any other state. So in Utah, obviously murder in the first degree that carries the death penalty is called aggravated murder. That's just what they call it. Okay. Typically to get the death penalty, you charge someone with some form of homicide. Okay. And then you have to have what's called aggravating circumstances. Okay. And if they have aggravating circumstances that are proven, then the prosecutor in the sentencing phase can ask the judge for a sentence of the death penalty. Mm. And depending on the state, they either have to have the jury determine that sentence or the court. Yeah. So I'm not sure what it is in Utah on that, but we will definitely likely find out. And I'm sorry, your question was
the description. Yeah. Usually they'll give the charges, but they don't tell you what's connected, why those what's connected to those charges.
Yes. Like that. So two ways to get to what's called a charging instrument for a defendant. You can either go through a grand jury proceeding and you can get a grand jury indictment, or in this case, where they obviously don't need a grand jury, it's pretty obvious on its face with the mountain of evidence they have. The prosecutor can file what's called a complaint or a prosecutorial information. In Utah, they obviously call it an information because that's what he said at the beginning of the press conference. So, Chris, this prosecutor prepared this, and I think he wanted to show the public, not just in Utah, but the nation, because this is a national, if not an international situation, that he has done all of his homework and that he has a very detailed charging instrument. And I think that's why the prosecutor wanted to explain the charges as well as simply just list them.
I'll tell you one thing that's really been annoying me as I listen to the coverage from the left. And I know he is the alleged shooter. You're innocent until proven guilty. I get that. But the left, if you listen to the commentators, Tim, they'll always say there isn't a clear motive of yet why.
Oh, for the love of God.
I'm like, okay. There's comments that he's made regarding Charlie Kirk. His lover, now that we learned, his boyfriend, roommate is transitioning to a woman. There's just a mountain of things, and the left is like, but we still don't know what the motive is yet. I'm like, are you kidding me?
The messages that he likely inscribed,
but we don't know what the motive is.
Do you know
yet.
how hard it is to inscribe words on a bullet casing to take the time to do that? Chris, the messages in the Discord chat. Discord is a social media platform that's used by a lot of gamers. It's like a Signal or GroupMe or WhatsApp or whatever. So these are all out. Look, you don't have to say that is the motive, but you could say allegedly the motive is because, as you pointed out, the circumstantial evidence of what the motive is overwhelming. You know why they're not saying it? Because then, Chris, they have to admit that their left-wing lunatic narrative drove this young man possibly to madness and definitely to the point where he allegedly committed murder.
Yeah. And I tell you one other thing that the left narrative that is really annoying to me also is they keep bringing up that he came from a conservative home, Tim, and he was very proficient with guns. He shot guns, and they never mentioned the fact that the governor said, yes, he came from a conservative family, but his political philosophy was different from his family. He was very left. They don't mention any of that stuff.
It's like trying to defend or that's like trying to find justification for Hitler because maybe his parents went to church once. You know what I mean? It's like they're trying to Trish, they are avoiding the obvious so hard because the obvious is that this horrible human being was radicalized by leftist ideology and then committed the ultimate sin of a political assassination.
And this is connected also to the recent trans shootings that we've had, mass shootings. They won't connect the two. They'll just say this is just some random act of violence against Charlie Kirk because he was a conservative activist. But they don't throw in the point that his boyfriend is transitioning into a female, and maybe that is part of the thing that set him off as well. No mention of that in the left-wing media at all.
Because they would have to basically look in the mirror and maybe take some personal responsibility for what they've done in this country the last few decades. And the other thing, I'm going to focus on this in the stump speech. I love what J.D. Vance said the other day or yesterday when he hosted the Charlie Kirk show, where he basically proclaimed that he's had enough of this both sides BS, right? The fact that we can say blah, 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 but here comes the but both sides, ... Yeah. This is not a both side argument. This organized extremism, I'm sorry, maybe it existed at some point in our nation's history on the far, far anarchist right. But right now, and for the last decade or two, organized extremism is solely in the province of the left. They're the ones with the BLM Inc. They're the ones with the Antifa. They're the ones who actually, put on the garb of terrorists and firebomb urban cities.
Yeah. And one of their whatabouts, they talk about the violence on the right, and they really should not use this example because it's not a good example. They bring up the home invasion of Paul Pelosi. Do they forget that, first of all, the person that invaded the Pelosi's home was an illegal immigrant from Canada? They don't mention that. So this is not bolstering your argument. There was nothing political about this at all. He just wanted Nancy to attack Nancy Pelosi because he was a completely nut. I don't remember anything political about any of his writings.
You're right.
They'll also bring up the House Speaker and the husband in Minnesota. Now, that is a clear instance of political violence. But as I said yesterday on here and to my friend, you have nuts on both sides, the left and the right. The difference is polling shows that those on the left condone this political violence. And then they bring up January 6th with, no one was killed in January 6th. As a result of the violence or because they had a political vendetta. So I really wish they wouldn't throw January 6th into political
irrelevant.
Violence. Yeah.
It's illogical to try and attach that to this. And remember, the only person shot and killed was Ashley Babbitt. She was the only person actually shot and killed. And hey, Chris, go back and look at that Minnesota case. I believe that they buried that really deeply because that was, I think, some leftists as well, because they were mad that the Democrat speaker was working with Republicans on an illegal alien bill.
Okay.
So I think that one may have involved left-wing ideology
Because
too.
they'll bring up with the person that committed the shootings in Minnesota. They say that he had a list of other Democratic politicians
who they didn't like because they were becoming moderates.
Right.
Yeah. So it's all the grand majority of this. And look, we're not condoning violence on any side of the political coin, but let's be obvious. Sun Tzu, The Art of War. You got to know your enemy, right?
Exactly.
And the enemy right now, I'm sorry to say, is on the left. And I'm not at all advocating for any retaliation, but we have to understand that here's why Charlie Kirk was successful. He was pointing this out to younger people and explaining which side of the political philosophical coin in 2025 America was closer to God, Jesus, Christianity, our Judeo-Christian philosophies and beliefs, humanity, and that the left was crazy because of the things they're promoting: gender ideology, child mutilation, wokeism, DEI, CRT. Everybody's a Nazi. Everybody's a fascist. Censorship. A report came out today about the targeting of Catholics in the Biden administration. So it is the left that is trying to weaponize political power to the point where they're actually acting out with actual violent acts.
Going back to the charging document for a minute, I'm not an attorney, Tim, you're the attorney, but I've always heard when you are seeking the death penalty, aggravated murder or first-degree murder, that premeditation comes into play here. And I would think with all the evidence that they have gathered so far, premeditation is not going to be a problem to prove. For example, inscribing things on the bullet, that takes time to know, to figure out where Charlie Kirk was going to be at Utah Valley State University. That to me seems premeditation, buying the weapon, everything. I mean, this is a cut and dry case. They've got DNA, but I mean, there's a lot of premeditation here that I think that would bolster the first degree aggravated charge.
I would agree so. And I'm trying to find the actual charging document so I can crap. I need to find a
and why
I need to find a website without a firewall.
And then I want to ask you this. Look, I don't want to cast aspersions on anyone. Everyone is innocent until proven guilty. I get that. Tim, I don't know if I'm so much buying that the roommate had no idea that any of this is going on. These people live together. They romantically involved. He knew this person's feelings about Charlie Kirk. The authorities are saying that he has cooperated completely, giving them a lot of information. But I don't necessarily think I buy 100% he had no idea that this person was thinking about doing this.
So it's interesting you bring that up, because two of the charges, Chris, would lead to that conclusion. Two of the charges had to do with witness tampering, obstruction of justice. And they specifically mentioned that Robinson asked the roommate to do certain overt acts like deleting text messages, hiding evidence. And so I have a feeling the roommate, and this is my pure speculation right now, just from listening to the press conference earlier and my time as a prosecutor and a defense attorney. I practiced.
And someone with just common sense.
20 years, common sense. That the accused, we can at least call him that. We don't have to use the alleged thing. He is the accused. The accused did work with the roommate for maybe a brief period of time.
After the fact, I mean, does that make a difference if it's, I mean, he can be charged after the fact of this crime, and he could be kind of an accessory.
You can be an accessory before or after. Yeah. You can be you can help plan it, or you can drive the getaway car.
Right.
Remember the Manson murders, or the one where they charged the people in the getaway car, and there was a big controversy about whether some of those people were there against their will or not. And so does that include? So you can be an accessory before or after the fact. And in this case, I have a feeling that this person, this roommate, it's interesting they've kept that identity so concealed. I'm amazed because this person's an adult. They're over the age of 18. So they may have either assisted to some degree before with the planning, or they may have assisted with some of the destruction of the evidence afterwards. I say that because of some of the charges are obstruction of justice and some witness tampering. And then, Chris, they may not have done it to a great degree. And then they may have either gotten scared or worried, and the police were knocking on the door. And that's when they said, okay, I'm out. I'm going to cooperate.
That's
You
my
tell me what
theory.
you need to know.
That's my theory.
And in exchange for that, that person may end up not being charged at all, and they may get a sweetheart deal because they may have to testify at a court of law.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know if I completely buy that the roommate knew nothing about the planning or anything that was going on. That's kind of hard for me to buy.
Yeah, I don't think that's I don't think that's true. I think they will be able to show. It's because there was this Discord chat, that they were all on. So this was the first court, and folks, just so you know, the wheels of justice, they turn slowly, but they do turn. I mean, look at that other horrible case out west a couple years ago, Idaho. The Idaho killer
killed those students.
When was that? 2 years ago?
3 years,
2 years ago. Yeah. He is now in jail for the rest of his life. Yeah. So that's a first degree. He decided to take a plea, right? So they didn't seek the death penalty. So he's in jail for the rest of his life. And that took about 3 years. That actually moved along a little quicker than I thought it would. This case, this individual seems really depraved, really deranged, is not cooperating with the authorities at this point in time. So are they going to try to fight this? Chris, I've never seen a press conference of the prosecutorial press conference go on for like over an hour. Yeah. The mountain of evidence they've collected. I know people are saying, oh, well, yay, FBI. The family members got this guy to turn himself in. The FBI was probably about to pinch this guy one way or the other. The amount of surveillance footage, the evidence left at the scene, they were going to get this loser one way or the other pretty quickly.
And tell me this, Tim, as a prosecutor, there is a monumental amount of evidence against him. He is not speaking. I guess him speaking, they'd want him to confess, but they have pretty much all the details. They have his movements on video and everything. I mean, what more could they glean from him speaking? Is it just getting an actual motive? Because everything else, they've got enough evidence to convict him. Why is it important for him to talk?
Ultimate confirmation. I think they have so much evidence, to your point, that they don't have to worry as much about that because they have those chat messages from Discord where he made very damning statements. So, but all of that is circumstantial evidence to a point. Him saying things out of his very mouth to investigators would absolutely seal the deal and force him to take a plea versus anything else. But I don't know that he has anything to lose because the prosecutors already said we're going for the death penalty.
And what's been strange, too, is there hasn't been any mention of an attorney for the accused. Not a public defender or his family has hired an attorney. We haven't seen anybody doing a press conference saying, I'm going to represent this guy. How strange. I've been watching political current events for a long time, and usually high profile case like this, they have an attorney. This person is not indigent. His family comes from some means. What do you make of that there hasn't been an attorney assigned to him yet?
It's a little odd because at this point he's been in custody for quite a while, but now that the charging document has been filed, he will now need to be arraigned. And so we'll have to see who shows up for him at his arraignment, whether he gets assigned a public defender or whether he is going to obtain private counsel.
And finally, Alan Dershowitz, the noted attorney who we will have the pleasure of meeting in Israel, was on Newsmax this morning saying that it's going to be very difficult probably for him to get an attorney to represent him. And Alan Dershowitz has made his bones on representing the unrepresentable O.J. Simpson case in point. So I thought that was a very interesting observation by Dershowitz.
Indeed. What do you mean O.J. did it? What? Hey, we got a jam-packed show today. David Stokes coming up right after this first break. We are going to shift gears quite a bit, folks, and talk about the Jefferson Arms Project and Sky High. Truly, these are like East Coast sales tax rates in downtown St. Louis. Unbelievable. The Wildwood City Council handing out tax breaks to developers for the first time in that city's history. Chris's Corner at 4:45. Speaker Stump Speech at 5:07. Dr. Randy Tobler, truly in these troubled times, he is the prescription for what ails us. 5:45, Chris's stack of stuff and a preparation for Larry Connor's USA. Chris, we've got a lot to get to today.
Show.
And we've even got producer Joey V and his beautiful shawl sweater.
That is a nice sweater. Nice fall sweater.
Masterpiece Theater.
Very GQ looking.
Thank you. Yeah, fantastic indeed. All right, David Stokes will talk to Chris and I next on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL.
It's the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. More hot weather on the way the next 2 days. A low of 66, kind of mild in the morning, but mostly sunny and heats up quickly on Wednesday with a high of 92. Not overly humid, so no heat index. That's good news, but it's still a hot one again on Thursday. Mostly sunny and a high of 93. We'll get into at least slight rain chances as we head into Friday and cool it back down into the 80s through the weekend. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
News, analysis, opinion.
Historic meeting between European leaders, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and President Trump.
We want to stop the killing, get this settled.
101.9 and 94.1. We'll want peace. News Talk STL.
Do what I did and call Hanson's Tree Service. If you've got anything that needs to be cleaned up in your yard or around your business. I had a stump that had been left over from a tree that unfortunately the bugs got into it. And it just started failing a few years ago. We tried to save it, and we just had to take the beautiful thing down. But we planted others in its place, right? That's what kind of conservatives we are, green conservatives. Hey, I called Hanson's Tree Service then to get the stump out, and Chad sent the gang out there. Man, did they do a fantastic job. From soup to, the stump was in the rear of the yard back near the woods, and therefore they had to go through the yard and everything. After they left, you wouldn't have known they were there. They're clean. They're efficient. They don't trash everything. They took this stump out completely. They mulched everything. They mulched the area. It looks fantastic, and now we'll be able to plant something in its place. Hanson's Tree, hansonstree.com. Online, you can book appointments. You can get a tree inspection booked as well. You can order some of their beautiful organic mulch, hassle-free estimates, 6 months, same as cash financing. Make payments and so much more. Emergency service line, same as the business line, 636-379-1830. You know, when storms roll through, sometimes you can't wait for the next business day, and you need somebody like Hanson's to come out lickety-split. They will do that. 636-379-1830. Tree care services, all types of resources. They can take care of anything that needs to be pruned, spruced up, cleaned up, bugs, disease problems, and so much more. They're your one-stop shop to make your outdoor areas absolutely spectacular, whether it's around your home or your business. hansonstree.com. That's hansonstree.com.
Attention all gun enthusiasts. Don't miss the big St. Charles County Gun Show, September 26th to 28th at the Steel Shop Athletic Center in St. Charles, with 500 tables of pistols, handguns, rifles, long guns, shotguns, ammo, and more. The fun starts Friday, September 26th at 4, continues all weekend. Admission just $14 and good for the entire weekend. Kids 12 and under get in free, with discounts for veterans and first responders. The big St. Charles County Gun Show, the weekend of September 26th at the Steel Shop Athletic Center. More info at bkpromotions.us.
Concerned about the condition of your windows driving up your energy bills? I was too. It's only called STL Windows and Doors. Call today for your free in-home estimate and start saving tomorrow. 314-277-5952 or stlwindowsanddoors.com.
Hi, Kirk Hilsinger here, and I'm the new chairman of the St. Louis Republican Central Committee. I invite you to our meetings that take place the first Thursday of every month at 3710 Hampton Avenue. You can stay connected with us to learn more about how you can get involved, make your voice heard, and contribute to our shared goals. Together, we can make a difference in the city of St. Louis and the state of Missouri. For more info, visit our new website at stl-gop.com. That's stl-gop.com.
Paid for by St. Louis City Republican PAC. Curtis Farber, Treasurer.
The Washington Guard presents the 4th Annual Patriots Banquet, The Price of Freedom, honoring real American heroes. Join us October 11th at Parish Hall in Union, Missouri. Hear from featured speakers Doug Giles, founder of Warriors and Wild Men, and Marine Colonel Jack Jackson, Harrier jet fighter pilot. Master of Ceremonies Jamie Allman will host this inspiring evening. For tickets, visit thewashingtonguard.com. Use code NewsTalkSTL for $10 off.
This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. It's the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show.
County Executive Sam Page says this county government headquarters is at the end of its life. He says no one's invested in its maintenance for 20 years. Plus, the basement of the 50-year-old building houses the power supply for the police station, the courts, and the jail. To get up to code by 2027, the deadline, a fire suppression system, including sprinklers, needs to be installed. Also, asbestos encased around the building must be removed. A consultant hired by the county council estimates that renovation would cost $100 million. Page says that's just the tip of the iceberg.
431 on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show. $100 million in a county that is using its reserve funds to pay for its bills. Doesn't sound like a good financial situation. Let's talk with our next guest, David Stokes.
David Stokes over at the Show Me Institute.
In high school, you talk about spike. I had a very short spike. It was
I
like
knew there's a spike somewhere in that
It
stuff.
wasn't very punky. It was more Leave It to Beaver-ish, maybe.
And as he does every Tuesday, David Stokes, Director of Municipal Policy at the Show Me Institute. Welcome into the show, David.
Hello, gentlemen. Good to be on the air with you.
Excellent, excellent. David, you and I worked in that grand old building about 20 plus years ago, and it wasn't in the best of shape then. It seems to have deteriorated. This is an old issue. They've been talking about what to do with the Lawrence K. Roos building for years now. What do you see the ultimate outcome of this? Where's the county going to get $100 million?
Well, I mean, it's St. Louis County is the largest county in the state. They can get $100 million. They might have to ask voters to approve a bond issue. But if that's a modest investment like that, and in the big scheme of things, I mean, the county has $1 billion budget. This is a multi-year project for its signature building. You know, it may be worth it. My problems with this whole proposal are twofold. One is that the county council has been, you had to get to that county council estimate of $100 million because they weren't provided, as I understand it. They asked the Page administration and the Department of Administration to give them, like, what's sort of the bare minimum cost to do with the sprinklers on the floors that don't have them and to remove the asbestos. What's that bare minimum cost? And they weren't given that exact number. So they came up with this $100 million estimate, and I'm sure they did their best to get it. But I'd like to know, and I think everybody needs to know, what is that bare minimum cost to come up to Clayton's code? And I'll get to Clayton's code part in a second.
Mm-hmm.
But is it $50 million? Is it 100? Is it 150? They need to know what you absolutely have to have. Because, right, you can't just move the county headquarters out of Clayton. The charter requires it there. It is centrally located. You know, what if you move it to South County? Then people from North County got to travel an hour to get to it. I mean, it's in the middle. It's the historic spot of it. It's in the charter. They should keep it in Clayton, and they should get a better idea of what that minimum cost is to address these immediate problems, and then they should spend that money. My second fold, I can't talk about this without focusing on this, just the sheer ridiculousness of the county being threatened to be fined and cited by a municipality because the county isn't up to that municipality's code. I think that the whole situation is crazy, that the city can say, you must do this with your county building, and if not, we're going to fine you, cite you, condemn you, whatever. I do not think cities in Missouri should have the power to do that. And if it comes to that, I certainly think Clayton should exercise better judgment and grant St. Louis County extensions. It's not in anybody's interest. Clayton's, the taxpayers of Clayton, all of whom are county taxpayers as well, to exercise fines and perhaps further on with condemnations. It's just crazy that it's coming to this. I don't want to say this is all Clayton's fault. Certainly St. Louis County has not been addressing this as they should have been going back years. But still, I don't think cities should have any right to do this in the first place.
Yeah, David, Sam Page never seems to fail to disappoint when it comes to proposing really stupid things. David, look, I agree that the county, of course, needs some sort of building in which to conduct its business. But, David, we've seen so many examples of this around our region over the last few years. These governments building edifices to themselves at extremely high taxpayer expense for what these buildings should be used for. back in the day, David, they'd have a little one room, whether it was a little one room schoolhouse, whether one room jail cell or, one room mayor's office. And now we're building these monstrosities, to government itself. It's, I don't know. It just rubs me the wrong way in general.
Oh, and it should. I mean, the whole everything bells and whistles that the Page administration has talked about for like this $500 million new building construction around Clayton or elsewhere. I mean, that's just crazy. That's so much money. It's so unnecessary. When Chris and I worked in that county building, people came to it all the time to pick up all sorts of bits of information. So much of that is now done online. To like print off your assessment, pay your end of year property tax bill, check deed recording. All sorts of stuff is online now, and more of that will be online in the future. So you do not need this giant new building. I agree with what you're saying. We were just talking the other week about the way the county library has exorbitant spent money along their new building in Frontenac, the rehab just a few blocks away of the library on Lindbergh in Ladue there, and on around the area. Just building. They had fine libraries. They needed to improve them and keep them up, but they just tore many of them down and built giant new Taj Mahals. Totally unnecessary, and absolutely this whole $500 million bells and whistles, everything about it, totally unnecessary for county government. I just want them to get a hard number on what it will cost to put in the sprinklers and remove the asbestos and get that number and decide if you want to go forward doing that. That's, I believe, the solution here. And if it takes a little longer than Clayton wants to allow them, then Clayton should back down and let them take a little longer. And then we can get the state to add to the list of many things the state tells cities they can't do now, almost all of which are good, meaning the state's role of preventing cities is good. We can add, code enforcement on county buildings within a municipality.
Speaking with David Stokes, Director of Municipal Policy at the Show Me Institute. David, we talked to you a lot about taxing districts on your time here on the show, and looks like the St. Louis Port Authority has approved proposing a tax district for the Jefferson Arms redevelopment in downtown St. Louis, a 12.67% sales tax. That has to be one of the highest taxes in the region, including University City. Your thoughts on this?
Well, I want to say this really slowly for the listeners in the back. The Port Authority of St. Louis has approved a new sales tax subsidy for a hotel and condo redevelopment downtown, which is not on the water. I want to make this very clear. There's no water involved in this. Yet they have been granted, this is their second Port Authority sales tax. The soccer stadium got the first one. So it's just the latest. On top of the Transportation Development District sales tax and the Community Improvement sales tax that this project is also applying for and will likely get, they've got a Port Authority sales tax. This is tax money that doesn't go to the public. It's all money that goes back to the developer to subsidize the development. It is crazy. And on top of the $17 million tax increment financing package the development got, on top of the millions and millions of dollars of historic tax credit that the development got, now they have three different sales taxes, 1% each, that will be applied at the stores at the ground floor of this building, all of which go to subsidize the development. This is at least 5, and I'm probably missing one, different subsidies for this project. It's totally out of hand, and it's absurd that this Port Authority sales tax subsidy even exists. And it's going to expand throughout the parts of the city of St. Louis that are technically in the Port District, which is a lot of the city. It's not just along the river. It's commendable that some members of the Port Authority Board, for the first time in recent St. Louis City history, as far as I know, actually voted against this. It barely passed 4-3. You actually had some people opposing it and realizing how absurd this was. But alas, it still passed, and they're going to get their TDD, and they're going to get their Community Improvement District, and you're going to have the highest sales tax in the state of Missouri there, and it's all just done again. All these subsidies, they don't go to public goods or public uses. They're all just developer subsidies on top of the tens of millions he's already gotten and it's just crazy. And it's the perfect scenario to demonstrate how ludicrous we've gone with tax incentives and tax subsidies in Missouri.
And David, the images that jump into my mind as you were discussing all of that are all the empty, broken promises and the vacancies in downtown St. Louis. And I wonder how long it's going to take for this one to follow in the footsteps of St. Louis Center and Union Station and all the other great things that were such great ideas at the time. David, I think this one may fail epically faster, with a sales tax rate approaching that of most East Coast cities.
And add on to that, I mean, people are fleeing downtown anyway.
Right.
The businesses are dead.
Who's
and then
going to shop there?
And then you're going to add a 12% sales tax on a district that's already declining. That's just ridiculous, crazy.
Right, it is. And I want to be clear, and I agree with the absurdity of it. Look, I want this project to succeed. I want the new condos and the new hotels and the new stores here. I used to live in a loft kind of just about a block and a half from there. Chris, you were at parties.
Yeah,
back in my
pretty swanky
loft
pad back in
day.
your bachelor days, David.
You were there. I wanted to succeed.
Can't talk about those parties.
But these types of subsidies are crazy. And as I love to say, if economic growth by tax subsidies worked, and Wildwood's going to learn this lesson if we have time to chat about that next. If economic development by subsidy worked, then downtown St. Louis would be Kuwait. It would be awash in riches and wealth, because all it does is subsidize everything. But the fact is, it doesn't work. Ballpark Village subsidies didn't work. They might have helped grow Ballpark Village before the Cardinals lost all their fans, but they drove out of business all the competitors that were paying taxes and were replaced by Ballpark Village, which isn't right now. That's just one of many reasons why this type of plan works. It hasn't worked in the city. It doesn't work anywhere, and it's not going to work in Wildwood.
And speaking of Wildwood, they have approved a $3.3 million in incentives for a $50 million luxury apartment and retail complex. Many are asking, Wildwood is a pretty wealthy city. Why do they need to give subsidies to developers there?
Well, they don't. And for as long as they've been around, since Wildwood came into existence, I think in the late 90s, they've been a very good city for not giving away subsidies. But, the developers are constantly coming back to you and constantly asking and say, well, our development hasn't taken off. We need subsidies to have this grow. And it's unfortunate that Wildwood has bought into this. And they've approved, as you said, over $3 million in tax abatements for the new town center development. It's absolutely preposterous. The place as prosperous and beautiful as Wildwood needs to be subsidizing these things. If the development needs to take a little longer to succeed on its own, then let it take a little longer to succeed. But what's particularly galling about this, and this is similar to Chesterfield buying that office building in like a for-profit move for Chesterfield a few weeks ago. So Wildwood doesn't levy a property tax. Look, nothing wrong with that. If the people of Wildwood don't want a property tax to fund their city, and they want to do it all through sales taxes, that's their decision. But for Wildwood then to be able to abate the property taxes for this development and be the only one who has any say in it is just crazy. I mean, they're abating the property taxes that go to the Rockwood School District in St. Louis County and the Special School District and the Zoo Museum District, and Wildwood loses nothing because they just have to get to give away other taxing districts money. And that's so crazy that we finally got a way to address that with tax increment financing by moving to county TIF commissions in this region. That's been better, at least in St. Louis County. Not great, but better. But we need to move in that direction for cities and just property tax abatements. You have to have skin in the game to be able to make these decisions at the very minimum. And we really need to change that state law so that cities cannot just make these abatements that affect other taxing districts more than the cities themselves. So what's going to happen is Rockwood School District will inevitably seek a tax increase on the people who do pay taxes. So it's never going to work out in the end. It didn't work in downtown St. Louis. It's not going to work in Wildwood.
David, before we let you go, I have to ask you, did you give glowing praise to your boss, Brenda Talent, last week on how well her husband did co-hosting?
I'm effusive praise. You can never flatter the boss too much. So of course, Jim, who I'm blessed to consider a friend, is so tremendous. And he was great on the show. And yes, I told Brenda many times. Hopefully that'll be in the year-end review somehow.
David, I think he may have taken your slot, buddy. Sorry.
Well, it's tough shoes to fill, but somehow I think that the former congressman and former senator was able to fill them at least somewhat.
That is David Stokes, Director of Municipal Policy at the Show Me Institute, showmeinstitute.org, and on X, David C. Stokes. David, thank you as always, my friend. We'll speak with you next Tuesday.
Thanks, guys. See you next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you. 446. Tim, I got some news in the Chris's Corner on the post-Biden presidency is struggling. We'll have more on that when we come back on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show on 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL.
You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. More hot weather on the way the next 2 days. A low of 66, kind of mild in the morning, but mostly sunny and heats up quickly on Wednesday with a high of 92. Not overly humid, so no heat index. That's good news, but it's still a hot one again on Thursday. Mostly sunny and a high of 93. We'll get into at least slight rain chances as we head into Friday and cool it back down into the 80s through the weekend. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
Thanks for taking my call.
News, analysis, opinion.
Radio news junkie. Love every bit about it.
News Talk STL.
Hey, let me tell you all about the Walners. 314-810 sold. 314-810 sold. The Walner home selling team at Berkshire Hathaway. Now also featuring Jamie Allman. Jamie has joined Rodney and Jen, and you can get a hold of them today by calling them at 314-810 sold. Look, the Walners have so many buyers lined up. They're going to guarantee to obtain you an offer. They are licensed and in good standing on both sides of the river. Yes, they can help you both in Missouri or Illinois when you call them today at 314-810 sold. They're a husband and wife team, plus Jamie Allman, 3 for the price of 1. That's what you get when you get a hold of the Walners. 314-810 sold. They're not going to offer you some cookie cutter boilerplate model of a contract. It's going to be one tailored to your specific needs. And guess what? It's always going to have a wonderful option in it, an escape hatch. If now becomes not a good time to sell your home, then you can walk away. No question asked. Come back whenever you're ready. Get that awesome level of service by calling the Walners at 314-810 sold. They're wonderful people. They do this as their mission, their life's calling, their career. They're not weekend warriors. They're so steeped in the knowledge of everything about the real estate industry in and around Missouri and Southern Illinois. Walk the walk, talk the talk. They know where all the hovels and the high grounds are. They'll find those hidden gems for you, and they'll deliver you nonstop service. Indeed. You will definitely go back to the Walners for all your real estate needs. Get that going today. Call for a free listing. Get a lot of awesome information about the real estate and the mortgage industry in general in our land by calling Rodney and Jen Wallner at 314-810 sold. That's 314-810 sold.
Looking for an underwater adventure or a scaly new friend? Dive into Tropical World Pets on Watson Road. For 32 years, this family-owned wonderland has been St. Louis's go-to destination for all things aquatic and reptilian. With over 7,000 square feet of aquariums, we're home to the area's largest selection of freshwater fish, including rare cichlids you won't find anywhere else. But that's not all. We've got tarantulas, snakes, and lizards galore. Tropical World Pets, 314-849-4020, or visit twpstl.com.
Rhino Shield is engineered to outlast paint, formulated to outsmart the elements. Rain or shine, sleet or snow, mold or mildew. Our home exterior coatings intelligently designed to stand up to Mother Nature. Call 877-25-RHINO or 877-25rhino.com.
News Talk STL is proud to have Doug Voss of Safe Bunny Radio as part of our lineup each week. Doug has been a staple on the St. Louis radio airways for many years as one of the leading financial experts in the area. You can now hear Doug and Safe Bunny Radio every weekend on News Talk STL. But in case you miss anything, you can check it all out at DougVossSafeBunnyRadio.com. What else do our listeners need to know, Doug?
Simply put, I focus on helping pre-retirees and retirees build,
preserve, and protect retirement assets, and I've been helping my clients solve their insurance and financial needs for the past 33 years. I also strive to educate my clients on how to prepare for retirement, minimize the impact of market volatility on their assets, and deal with the challenges of increased longevity. Call me today at 844-676-SAFE. That's 844-676-7233.
Doug Voss is a registered representative. Securities offered through DHL Securities, LLLP. Member FINRA and SIPC.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
How can we move America's economy and opportunities for us all in the right direction? We're going to talk to Steve Forbes about that Wednesday at 7:35.
Mornings starting at 5:30 on News Talk STL. This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Like a fool, I went and stayed too long. I'm wondering if your love's still strong. Ooh, baby, here I am, signed, sealed, delivered, I'm yours.
It's the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show.
Here's the thing, Mr. Patel. I think you're not going to be around long. I think this might be your last oversight hearing. Because as much as you supplicate yourself to the will of Donald Trump and not the Constitution of the United States of America, Donald Trump has shown us in his first term and in this term, he is not loyal to people like you.
That rant of false information does not bring this country together. If you want to work on bringing this country, it's my time, not yours.
My God.
If you want to talk about
dividing this country,
it is
I
my
follow
time.
you on your social media posts that
It is
tear
my
this country
time.
apart.
Or 52, Spartacus working on his presidential campaign primary commercials for 2028. Remember a couple weeks ago, he got engaged. So I think this was part of his presidential quest. What do you think, Tim?
Yeah, this congressional hearing brought to you by Booker for President.
Exactly. All right, let's do a little Kerner.
Chris.
And if you don't know, now you know.
And now, Chris's Corner.
Poor Joe Biden. He had a terrible presidency, and it seems to be going on in his post-presidency is going just as bad as well. You remember Jimmy Carter, he was a terrible president, but he redeemed himself with Habitat for Humanity and all of the good works that he did. Well, it's not the same trajectory for Joe Biden. Wall Street Journal had an article this morning. The title was, Joe Biden is struggling to cash in on his presidency. It said, quote, Biden, 82 years old, is charting a post-presidency that is less lucrative than what he expected when he left office. Options for big jobs are limited and by his advanced age, his unpopularity in Democratic circles and companies concerned about retribution from President Trump. Also on the Biden front, longtime donors are balking at pitching in to help for President Joe Biden's presidential library. NBC has a story, says donors cited a range of factors for not wanting to make themselves a target of the White House to holding their financial firepower for their party's future. Some cited personal interaction with Biden's inner circle as being so distasteful, they believed it would be a barrier to ever raising significant funds for the 46th president. And I saw an article this morning where a gentleman gave, I think, $1 million or $2 million to the presidential campaign for Biden. And he said, basically, he wants his money back.
Whoa!
So Joe Biden, post-presidency, not going very well. Mondami, he's probably going to be the next mayor of New York. There's been a lot of controversy within the Democratic Party because the two leaders of Democrats in the Senate and the House have not endorsed Mr. Mondami yet. Senator Chris Van Hollen is pretty pissed off about that, Tim. He said over the weekend in Iowa at one of the annual pig or pork dinners, he said, quote, many Democratic members of the Senate and the House representing New York have stayed on the sidelines. That's kind of spineless politics is what people are sick of. They need to be behind him and get behind him now. We've become a party that too often trims its sails, too cautious, too rudderless, too attached to poll wash, pundit rinse, and donor dried messages. What comes out of the wash is all bleached and blow dried. Wow, pretty tough words. spokesman for Hakeem Jeffries, this was his response. He said, quote, Leader Hakeem Jeffries will have more to say about the general election well in advance of November 4th. Meanwhile, confused New Yorkers are asking themselves the question, Chris Van who? They got him there. Catherine, the mayor Hochul, she endorsed Mondami over the weekend. And Representative Don Beyer, he's from Virginia, Democrat. He said, we spent 4 or 5 years running away from the socialist label. It's really hard to embrace it. We're not going to take back the House with the Mondami message. So, and Representative Tom Suozzi, who represents a swing district in New York, he said he wouldn't support Mondami. So, Tim, you lived in New York. New York's a very democratic city. When a person wins the Democratic primary for mayor, he's pretty much a shoo-in to win. Everybody gets behind him and supports him. We're not seeing it in this cycle. And the Democrats have a real dilemma here. You know, they keep talking about President Trump's polls going down, blah, blah, blah. They don't mention really the shenanigans that are going on in the Democratic Party. Their polling is atrocious. People don't support them anymore, and they won't even support the mayor of New York, the future mayor of New York. They're at a crossroads. Are they going to try to moderate and come to the middle like President Clinton did in 92? Or are they going to go full left socialist? I'm going to put my money on full left socialist, and that'll be good for us in the midterm elections, of course, and in future elections. And that is Chris's Corner.
Yeah, Chris, if we had an honest media, national media, corporate media, which we don't, they would be reporting on this epic civil war going on in the Democratic Party. I heard John Fetterman today sounding like a throwback from 20 years ago in the Democratic Party saying, turn the temperature down and let's stop being so crazy. Meanwhile, you got Ilhan Omar and the squad saying we haven't been crazy enough.
Yeah, so big conflict there in the Democratic Party. Speaker's thumb speech.
Yes, I'm tired of this both sides BS.
Both sides BS. And at 5:24, we'll speak with Dr. Randy Tobler, host of the Randy Tobler Show. We'll talk to him about the big news of the day. Maybe we'll ask him about the sideshow in the Senate today with Booker Spartacus. And at 5:45, we'll lighten it up to get you on your way, and we'll tell you what Larry Connors USA will be talking about. You're listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL.
Looking for a fresh eating alternative for you and your family? Head on over to CJ's Restaurant and Bar in O'Fallon. CJ's literally offers something for everyone, from young to old. We're a casual American eatery with a wide-ranging menu of pastas, salads, and sandwiches, all served in a comfortable, warm environment with a family-friendly atmosphere. From vegetarian options to hearty classics. We offer dine-in, carry-out, catering, and even have a banquet room for your special events. Come see us or visit us on the web at cjsofallon.com.
Jamie Allman here, tossing and turning over retirement worries. You're not alone. 3 out of 4 Americans share your concern about having enough saved. But here's the thing. A comfortable retirement isn't out of reach, even if you're planning for 30 or 40 years ahead. Every day, Jeff Portman from the Gemini Wealth Group helps people avoid the critical mistakes that can derail their retirement. Build your path to financial confidence. Visit GeminiWealthGroup.com or call Jeff directly at 314-888-0123.
Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor. Member FINRA SIPC.
From home improvement to replacement, do-it-yourself electrical projects can be shocking. That's where Grasser Electric can help. They've been lighting up St. Louis for years. From ceiling fans and dimmer switches to repair or replacing your electric. No job is too big or too small for your home or business. Grasser Electric will even install emergency backup generators. So call Grasser Electric today before the sparks start to fly. 636-441-5200 or go to grasserelectric.com.
Fall is here, and Daniel's Farm and Greenhouse has everything you need to make your yard shine. From vibrant mums and fall blooms to pumpkins, gourds, and seasonal containers that will make your neighbors jealous. Need trees, shrubs, or fresh vegetables? We got you covered with 15 greenhouses of full-quality plants, mulch, soil, and winter protection supplies. Our family knowledgeable staff is here to help you 7 days a week. Daniel's Farm and Greenhouse, family-owned and your outdoor experts. On Juggerman and St. Peters and at danielsfarmandgreenhouse.com.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 101.9, 94.1, and always streaming.
News this hour from Town Hall. I'm Keith Peters in Washington.
The man accused of assassinating conservative Charlie Kirk at a Utah university has been charged with aggravated murder. The charge means 22-year-old Tyler Robinson could face the death penalty if convicted of killing Kirk at Utah Valley University in Orem. Kirk was gunned down September 10th as he spoke with students and died soon after. Robinson is also charged with felony discharge of a firearm and obstructing justice. It's unclear if Robinson has an attorney who could speak on his behalf. Prosecutors say Robinson's DNA was found on the trigger of the gun used to kill Kirk. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is calling for a European air defense system as Russia strikes a Ukrainian city. Correspondent Charles de Ledesma reports.
Ukrainian officials say Russian forces have bombarded the city of Zaporizhia in southern Ukraine with rockets. The attack killed at least one person, while 13 were wounded, including 2 children. Officials say the attack happened during the night and struck apartment buildings, a large-scale fire breaking out at residential buildings. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is urging European leaders to create a comprehensive air defense system to protect the continent. The war shows no signs of ending, despite US-led efforts to achieve peace. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
Testifying before the Senate Judiciary Committee today, FBI Director Kash Patel says the Bureau's focus is back where it should be.
Under this administration, the FBI has arrested more than 23,000 violent criminals. That's more than twice for the same time period from last year alone. 23,000, more than twice from the same time period last year.
On Wall Street, the Dow down by 125 points. More at townhall.com.
Attention investors with a 401k, IRA, or retirement account. The dollar has lost over 25% of its value in the past 5 years, and it's only going to get worse. Are you prepared for what's about to happen next? We are Advantage Gold, the #1 customer-rated gold IRA company in America, and we are helping Americans prepare for the great de-dollarization by diversifying their portfolios with physical precious metals. We've partnered with former chief economist of the IMF, Kenneth Rogoff, to give away his latest book called Our Dollar, Your Problem, a must-read for investors. Call 800-741-GOLD, and we'll rush a free copy of Our Dollar, Your Problem to your doorstep and include our special gold IRA investing kit, valued at $49. The dollar is losing value fast. Call 800-741-GOLD now to get your free copy of Our Dollar, Your Problem and our free gold IRA investing kit. Supplies are limited. Consult your tax and financial professional before investing. Call 800-741-4653. That's 800-741-GOLD.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. More hot weather on the way the next 2 days. A low of 66, kind of mild in the morning, but mostly sunny and heats up quickly on Wednesday with a high of 92. Not overly humid, so no heat index. That's good news, but it's still a hot one again on Thursday. Mostly sunny and a high of 93. We'll get into at least slight rain chances as we head into Friday and cool it back down into the 80s through the weekend. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Hey, Jamie Allman here for my good friend Harry Parker and the ultimate seafood dining experience at Gulf Shores, GulfShoresRestaurantandGrill.com. Gulf Shores offering a unique dining experience with a vast, mouth-watering menu of all of your favorite delicious dishes, something for everyone's taste or palate. 3 convenient locations, Edwardville, Creve Coeur, and St. Peter's. Dine in, carry out. They've got a food truck, too. Friendly staff looking forward to seeing you, making your dining experience one you will remember. Gulf Shores Restaurantandgrill.com.
Tony Colombo here for my dentist, Dr. Matt Boscia at New Creation Dental Care, the one-stop shop for all your family's dental needs. And Dr. Boscia is always expanding his services, now including the incredible all-on-4 full arch implant procedure, full mouth restoration that can give you back your smile in as little as 1 day. No more suffering with damaged or missing teeth or poor-fitting dentures. You can see some amazing smile makeovers, learn more about the all-on-4 procedure, and see everything Dr. Boscia can do right now at newcreationdentalcare.com.
Larry Connors here. Is your home ready for the chilly months ahead? Renewal by Andersen has a buy one, get one 50% off window event. And if you qualify, 18 months, no payments, 0 interest. Not sure if it's the right time? Renewal makes it easy. No obligation window inspection. Just find out what new windows might cost, when you're ready. No pressure, no hassle. And remember, no one but Renewal by Andersen can offer Fibrex, the proprietary window frame material, 200% stronger than vinyl. Means durability, efficiency, beauty that lasts every season. What are you waiting for? Call 877-WINDOWS or visit rbastl.com and get your consultation. Renewal by Andersen, superior products, exceptional service.
Newstalk STL, the Hammond Institute for Free Enterprise, and the Young America's Foundation welcome Steve Forbes to Lindenwood University for an inspiring evening on how free enterprise and entrepreneurship make America great. Discover how free markets and small business drive innovation, prosperity, and opportunity. Thursday, September 18th at Lindenwood University Scheidegger Center for the Arts. And this in-person event is free. Reserve your tickets now at hammondinstitute.org. Brought to you by Mid-Rivers and West News Magazines.
No big old corporate lib AM station telling us what to say here. Conservative talk for St. Louis. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
Well, if our weather folks are correct, and they always are, I'll tell you at this station there, we're going to have some cooler weather flooding in. You're going to want to be getting out in the backyards, definitely, because can you believe it? It's mid-September already, but we still got, I'd say a couple months left of really nice weather here, typically in the heartland. How about enjoy your backyard free of ticks and mosquitoes by getting a hold of one of our brand new advertisers, Mosquito Nix, great supporter of our station and our show. Mosquito Nix is Nix on the end, mosquitonix.com. They offer beyond fogging. They offer permanent automatic mosquito and tick protection, real coverage that once installed, you don't have to think about. It is a system that gets installed in and around your backyard. So it's not like this one-time fogger bomb, and then after a couple days, the ticks and the fleas and everything are back. No, this is permanent 24/7 protection throughout the entire warm weather months here in the heartland. Would you like to win a full season of this protection? They are, Mosquito Nixes, celebrating with their launch here on our station, a bite-free backyard sweepstakes. How do you apply? How do you get in the bucket? Give them a call, 636-698-1980, 636-698-1980 to enter mosquitonix.com, nix.com. If you're driving around and can't write that number down, just tell them that Tim Jones, the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show, News Talk STL sent you. Ask them about their back-to-school specials and more. Check out this phenomenal new company with this phenomenal new system to protect you and your family from mosquitoes and ticks. It's not harmful to kids or pets or any of the other good bugs. MosquitoNix.com. That's MosquitoNix.com.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now to just cheat at any cost to win elections.
Lying dog-faced pony shoulders. You said you were, but now you got to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you.
What are we doing wrong here? As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
We don't care about your both sides argument. That is dead. For one thing, there is no cognitive dissonance on our side. On your side, your beliefs do not match reality. We saw a young, bright man assassinated, and we know who did it. We are not coming up with rationalizations. We are calm, we are honest, and we are resolute. If you sat 600, 700 cases of harassment against Republicans, and you said, but what about this? What about this? And then you see this murder after calling somebody a fascist, you realize maybe I'm not the good guy. You don't have to do that, Jessica. They do. I don't believe you're part of that group, but why the hell do you have to mimic and echo that crap to us?
Yeah, I agree with Gutfeld. I think Jessica Tarloff is much better than that. Why she espoused that whole both sides BS is going to be the subject of today's Speaker's Stump Speech. Welcome back to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show here on a Tuesday, September 16th, 2025, it's 5:10 in the PM. Yeah, Chris, I don't see the moral equivalency between the Democrats going, well, what about, like you said, what about January 6th? There's no moral equivalency there because nobody at that demonstration shot and killed anyone except for Ashley Babbitt, who was shot by a Capitol Police officer.
And here's the one difference, too. Violence that has happened to Democrats, these poor people in Minnesota, the House Speaker and his wife, you don't see Republicans celebrating it, saying, good, I'm glad they were murdered. You see that on the left, and that is a huge difference to me. And that spells out that this was some lone crazy person. And I said there's crazy people on the right and left who did a heinous act, but you don't see us celebrating it. And that is the big difference, and that's what they won't focus on.
And this is one of about 12 or more incidences that have occurred over the last several years that have been a result, many believe, of this radicalized ideology that's coming from the left. The left is radicalizing people in this country and convincing them to carry out their deepest, darkest passions through violence. They have been radicalized through this gender ideology, through this insane concept of wokeism and CRT. They're being told every single day that Donald Trump and all Republicans are Nazis and fascists and Hitler. Well, what do you do with the world's most genocidal killers? Mm-hmm. Well, somebody's got to take them out, right? That's what these people are being radicalized to believe. It's extremely dangerous. And you're correct. There is no comparable comparison to anybody doing that on the right in 2025 America.
And during the break, they had a headline came up on the screen that the man who tried to kill Justice Kavanaugh, he intends to plead guilty. That's one of the examples that they don't ever bring up the left when it comes to political violence.
You've got Scalise, you've got Kavanaugh, you've got Donald Trump, you've got Charlie Kirk. We could go on. You've got the poor kids sitting in a church minding their own business. You got the kids in the school in Nashville, all falling or almost falling at the hands of radical leftists.
Yeah, there's no whataboutism here.
And Chris, they're organized. Like the right doesn't have these groups that have come from the left, the Antifas and the so-and-sos. And if somebody says, well, what about the Proud Boys? Well, no conservative defends them. We condemn them, but man, try to get a Democrat to condemn Antifa or BLM Inc. these days. They won't do it. It's kind of part and parcel of what they do. Something else popped up in the break as well. I can't quite remember it. Let me get back to our agenda here.
Sure.
We've got Dr. Randy Tobler, Chris, coming up at 5:20. Oh, I remember what it was. Okay. Let me just I remember what I was going to say.
Okay.
5:25, Dr. Randy Tolber is going to talk to us about the prescription, what ails us. It was something that you and Joey were talking about right at the end of our break, walking out, and I was trying to remember it, and 5 minutes later, I forgot. We lost a giant in Hollywood, and Joey, I know, may want to say a word or two about the great Robert Redford, who unfortunately has passed away at the age of, I think, 89 years old. Your favorite film or recollection of Robert Redford?
I can say the first film that I ever saw with Robert Redford, my parents and I went to the drive-in to go see The Sting.
Yes.
And that was my first exposure to Robert Redford and Paul Newman.
I loved Out of Africa.
I never saw that.
It's, I'm a sucker for those, as hard-hearted as people might think I am. I'm a sucker.
I forgot he was even in that.
Yeah, I'm a sucker for those long, sweeping epics. It's a love story, but it's also got so much cool scenery and imagery. Just a great flick. Joey, what say you about the great Robert Redford? Many say he was Hollywood's last statesman. So
I'll tell you one story. I saw The Sting when I was younger, maybe like in my teen years. And then I went to radio school, Broadcast Center, and Vic Porcelli was one of my teachers at Broadcast Center. This was like 2008 or so. Okay. And one of the assignments was to make some sort of fake radio show. And I was thinking of The Sting, and I did a fake horse race, which was part of the plot of The Sting, is that they did a fake horse race to trick this guy into spending money at a fake casino. And I did this fake horse race, sticking to the rails, coming off, the corner. And I used the horse announcer voice, and Vic Porcelli gave me extra credit on that assignment, which is not even allowed at Broadcast Center. I turned in my assignments and I had like 103%. And they said, we don't do that. I don't know what, you don't get 103%. So he did it against the rules of the school. And it made me feel great that, I don't know, we got in trouble for anything or if I'm owed some extra credit from Vic one day, but I love that story.
And that's the first time I did not know Vic had taught at the broadcast. And I know that the great Larry Connors has taught at the broadcast center. I didn't know Vic Purcell had too.
Yeah.
Learned something new today.
Larry would come in on his hog, his Harley, come in and teach a class on broadcasting, television broadcasting. Then he'd ride off into the wind.
Was that Legends 101?
It was Legends 101.
Yeah.
All of the greats came out of that class. I can't think of any besides Larry, but
he was in so many great movies, and he produced. He was an incredible producer as well, and director. And one of my favorite movies that he was not in, I think his voice, I think he had some voiceover parts in it, was another very big sweeping epic, A River Runs Through It. A River Runs Through It. Very poignant film, powerful film, got a bit of a sad ending. But Brad Pitt was in A River Runs Through It. It took place out in Montana.
And of course, he started the famous now Sundance Film Festival. Joy, was the Sundance Movie Channel, was he a part of that too, or somebody he let them use that name? Was he a part of that?
Yeah, he was a part of that as well. It's kind of crazy that the next Sundance Film Festival is coming up in January/February. I think it's between that, and it's going to be the first one without the big guy.
Yep. So the great Robert Redford has gone to the big screen in the sky.
Heartthrob back in the day.
Definitely. May he rest in peace. All right, Dr. Randy Tobler coming up 5:25 at 5:45. We, of course, wrap things up with everything you need to know we may have missed in Chris's stack of stuff, and then we'll prepare you for Larry Connors USA. Larry's got some really powerful topics tonight. I'm looking at our sheet here, and Chris will tell you about all those just after 5:45. Speaking of movies, Joey, are we going to be reviewing a flick this week?
I'm going to go see this football horror film called Him, and I've been avoiding the trailers as much as possible, but it's got Marlon Wayans in a serious role, it looks like, and it's produced by Jordan Peele, who does the craziest horror films that you've probably seen of late. They're real thinkers and weird ones, so I hope this one is full of gore, and I'll answer Chris's question of whether there's something supernatural. We have a debate on whether horror means supernatural and ghosts, or if it can just mean violence.
How have you been missing the previews?
I've been avoiding them. Every time they come on, I put the mute on.
Okay.
Because I don't want it spoiled. That's all.
Okay.
I think for the Halloween season, Joey, which we're in the spooky season now officially, pumpkin spice lattes and all that garbage. I've been working myself up to watch the Alien series on Hulu. It's been getting really good reviews. I'm trying to get through this series that was made many, many years ago called Black Sails, about the pirates of Nassau. And I'm almost through it, but I keep, by the time I get home and done for the night, Chris, I'm sitting in the chair and I just keep falling asleep.
Yeah.
My wife has to wake me up and tell me to go to bed.
It's called being in your 50s.
I know, man. I'm like, I can't get through this freaking series, but I'm trying. It's called Black Sails. After that, I'm going to try to watch some of the new Alien series.
Yeah, I'm sitting this one out. I watched the first 2 episodes, and I'm just not into
Can't get into it.
because it's all about androids and robots and AI, and those aren't the cool things that I love about that first Alien. I love Yaphet Kotto.
Yeah.
I don't love the people that have milk coming out of their bodies when they get stabbed.
I love Yaphet Kotto because usually black people don't last very long in horror movies, and he made it almost through the whole movie. So he's my hero.
He didn't want to get in his underwear like Ripley, I think.
Yep. If he had done that, he might have survived, right? Riding that alien around.
Brother that made it through a horror movie. You're my hero, Yaphet.
Cheering for him there at the end there, indeed. All right. Well, you heard Greg Gutfeld there kind of tearing into Jessica Tarloff about the whole both sides BS argument. I'm going to examine that a little further today's Speaker Stump speech, courtesy as well of a clip. It's almost as if they planned it from J.D. Vance yesterday. Let's fire that off right now, here and then.
Listen to me, listen to me.
I'm very consistent. I'm a very stable genius.
It's time for the Speaker's Stump Speech, sponsored by Hanson's Tree Service at hansonstree.com.
People on the left are much likelier to defend and celebrate political violence. This is not a both sides problem. If both sides have a problem, one side has a much bigger and malignant problem, and that is the truth we must be told. That problem has terrible consequences. The leader of our party, Donald J. Trump, escaped an assassin's bullet by less than an inch. Our House Majority Leader, Stephen Scalise, came within seconds of death by an assassin himself. And now, the most influential conservative activist in generations, our friend Charlie has been murdered. This violence, it doesn't come from nowhere.
Gutfeld, JD Vance, speaking from the same position, topical wise there. Could not agree with them more. I feel like I need to do an entire speaker stump speech. I don't have time for it today, but I feel like I need to do one on the whole leftist ideology, the fruit of the poisonous tree, because that's another thing the left has completely hijacked from its actual true historical origins. Look, folks, Nazism, leftism, Marxism, communism, socialism, fascism, they're actually all fruits of the leftist tree. The left is trying to convince us that somehow, well, you know, you guys on the right, you've got your sins too. And look, people on the right, we're not saints. And people on the right have done horrible things throughout our nation's and world's history. But over the last many years and decades, I think the right has gained a better sense of their Judeo-Christian roots, of their humanitarian roots. And that was exemplified in Charlie Kirk. On one hand, I'm so conflicted here. On one hand, I want us all to be more like Charlie Kirk, to be able to go into the lion's den and with great poise and with great control, be able to argue with anyone about anything, not lose our cool, be passionate. Charlie wasn't like, he wasn't a potted plant, right? He got excited, he got passionate, but he always came back around to basically thanking that person who vehemently disagreed with him for trying to make their point. They never could make their point because all Charlie did was start asking them questions about, you know, what is it that I'm saying that makes me a Nazi? What is it that I've said that makes me a fascist? Why do you think I'm a racist? And they could never give examples. They heard something and from somebody who heard something, something from somebody who heard something that Charlie Kirk was a Nazi. You know, it's that whole thing about whisper something in your friend's ear. And then by the time it gets through 20 people and back to you, you may have said tomato. By the time it gets back to you, it's purple car, right? So that, I think, is what we're dealing with in today's world. Charlie was breaking that mold by saying, if we just talk to each other more instead of shouting at each other or posting at each other on social media, we could cure a lot of the world's evils. And it was effective. That's why I believe the radical leftists have been radicalized to try to stifle that speech, because it is reaching young people. Young people are realizing, you know, it's not weird to want to live in the Judeo-Christian philosophy on which our country was founded. It's not weird to not cut off my body parts and think that because I'm born a girl, now I need to be a boy or vice versa. It's not weird to want to grow up and get married and have a family and, oh, God forbid, go to church every Sunday and maybe volunteer at the local soup kitchen and give back instead of yelling and screaming on social media or into the void, fascist, Nazi, Hitler. Oh, yeah. And they're all Trump. Donald Trump, Charlie Kirk, and so JD Vance, Greg Gutfeld, those of us here at Newstalk STL, all we want to do is speak truth to power. All we want to do is, how about everybody turn down the volume? Like John Fetterman, the Democrat, and the only apparently sane Democrat in the U.S. Senate, has been saying as well. And that's why I've had it with this both sides BS. There's only one side right now that is trying to radicalize our children, that is trying to brainwash our young people, that is trying to tear down and destroy the constitutional foundational principles on which this country was founded. Freedom, liberty are not bad words. Judeo-Christian philosophy are not evil intents. And just because you don't like it doesn't mean that the person you're arguing with is a Nazi or a fascist or a white Christian nationalist or a hater. Maybe they're just saying something that you know is absolutely true and you don't have an argument against it, much like most of the people that Charlie Kirk debated. And that's the Speaker Stump Speech for today.
Amen.
Chris, it is 5:24 in the PM. Let's continue what is always a deep theological, philosophical, and spiritual discussion with the great Dr. Randy Tobler. We'll cover all the big headlines of the day with the good doctor and see if we can find out from him where he thinks our country might be headed when we return here at 101.9 94.1, the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show at News Talk STL.
Dropping truth bombs and making you think. It's the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show.
Side of the gypsy queen, pack your things and leave. Word of a woman who knows, take all your gold and you go.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. More hot weather on the way the next 2 days. A low of 66, kind of mild in the morning, but mostly sunny and heats up quickly on Wednesday with a high of 92. Not overly humid, so no heat index. That's good news, but it's still a hot one again on Thursday. Mostly sunny and a high of 93. We'll get into at least slight rain chances as we head into Friday and cool it back down into the 80s through the weekend. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
All the information I need on the drive to work.
Like Ferguson in the morning, I keep it on throughout the day, whether it's local, national, or something big that's happening overseas.
News, analysis, and opinion. St. Louis is #1 for conservative talk.
News Talk STL.
Hey, if sparkling clean windows are on your to-do list, let me give you a personal recommendation. My wife and I, we recently had our windows cleaned by STL Windows and Doors, new window cleaning service, and the results were absolutely incredible. It's been about a couple of weeks now, and as I've told you before, the windows are so clean, it's almost like there's no glass in the windows. I'm not exaggerating. The windows are actually that clean. Let me tell you, this isn't your average spray and wipe job. They use triple filtered, ultra pure water that's so clean you couldn't even drink it. Why? Because it pulls out minerals that normally cause streaks and spots. The result, crystal clear windows, guaranteed streak free. They handle both residential and commercial jobs up to 2 stories. For an average home, the team takes about 4 to 6 hours, and they were about 5 for us. And they just don't clean the glass. They also clean and inspect your screens. They'll even rescreen if needed. You can even get on a regular schedule. Most homeowners do twice a year to keep your windows looking brand new. We had 4 screens that were replaced, and they did an absolute wonderful job. And of course, STL Windows and Doors is still the trusted family-owned company for new windows and door installations here in the St. Louis Metro. Call today. I'm urging you, call today and get your free estimate at 314-277-5952 or visit stlwindowsanddoors.com, stlwindowsanddoors.com. STL Windows, the preferred choice for installation and window cleaning in St. Louis.
Yo, this is Vic. Vic for Vets is proudly honoring our veterans. Every Wednesday at 11:05, you'll hear about that day's honoree and their incredible service to our country.
Hi, it's Ken. You want to nominate a veteran? Send their name, service information, and story to me, Ken, at newstalkstl.com.
Brought to you by Heroes Care, Alamo Military Collectibles, and Monocle's Pizza.
Together, let's celebrate the heroes in our community. Vic for Vets, where honor meets gratitude.
Hey, it's Jamie Allman here for The Barn in beautiful Columbia, Illinois, offering a unique experience with an upscale feel that's sure to make your visit unforgettable. More than 100 different bourbons, 30 vodkas, plus an expansive outdoor patio, upstairs banquet facility, seating up to 50. You can reserve that. Call for rates. Live music every Friday and Saturday. Last Queen Standing. And extreme bar bingo every Thursday, plus Tequila Tuesdays. I'm heading over there right now, The Barn, right there in gorgeous Columbia, Illinois.
Hi, I'm Helene Tobler, culinary nutritionist at Body of Health Direct Primary Care. Here we do practical wellness. Dr. Randy and I have a common sense approach to healthcare. My passion is helping our members enjoy better nutrition because food is medicine. We approach problems with a lifestyle foundation and cutting-edge medical tool chest. At Body of Health, it's about being your healthiest you. If you want to experience healthcare the way it ought to be, schedule a discovery call today at bodyofhealth.com. That's bodyofhealth.com.
As Tim Jones has been telling you, when life changes, you need someone you can trust. And that's Todd Sivia. At Sivia Law, we're dedicated to helping you through life's transitions, specializing in estate planning and elder law. With 7 convenient locations in the area, expert guidance is always close by. Call 833-995-WILL, 833-995-WILL, or visit civialaw.com. And don't forget, the first 10 people to tell them Tim Jones sent me get a free $300 strategy session.
This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
I'm not sure of what I see. You don't for me. Are you telling me this is a sign? She's looking in my eyes, mousing to other guys. Are you telling me this is a sign?
It's the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show.
President Maduro in Venezuela says that you're getting ready to invade his country. What is his message to him?
Well, I would say this right away. Stop sending Tren de Aragua into the United States.
stop sending drugs into the United States. We knocked off actually 3 boats, not 2, but you saw 2. And the problem is there are very few boats out in the water. There are not a lot of boats out in the water. I can't imagine why. Not even fishing boats. There's nobody. Nobody wants to go take a fish. So it's one of those things. But I would say to him very strongly, stop sending people from your prisons into our country.
Chris, I love the random side comments he makes.
You know what, President Trump is proving that all these intractable problems we've been told, the border can't be stopped. We can't stop drugs coming in this country. The cartels are too powerful. We just have to deal with drugs coming in this country. And he takes decisive action, and all of this stuff ends like almost overnight.
It's amazing what happens when a leader leads, right? Let's get to our next guest and see if he wants to continue to assist us with these hard doses of reality.
Gentlemen, we're about to enter the fascinating sphere of police work. The world of forensic medicine. Truly, you have a dizzying intellect.
Randy Tobler, Truth Warrior, Woke Destroyer.
As he does every Tuesday afternoon, Dr. Randy Tobler joins us. Doc, I know you're out and about, running around this great nation of ours. Thanks for taking a little time away from the family for checking in with us here on the home front.
Yeah, we're my pleasure. We're having a lot of fun here. We're with the annual family get together, so it's a lot of good. Taking care of the grandkid while the kids go out and spend way too much money on oysters in a tourist area. So
There you go. Yeah, that's what grandparents are supposed to do.
Well,
Doc,
showing fiscal responsibility where our government's unable to.
Indeed. Randy, isn't Chris right that, all of these intractable problems, as he said, which the left and the corporate media said just could never be solved, suddenly can be if someone actually wants to try and tackle them?
It's amazing. It's really not it's not a difficult solution, is it? It's a fairly simple solution. It just takes the resolve to do it against an onslaught of media and, of course, leftist, opposition. And it's just like, where the heck have they been for so many years, including, I think, some relatively complicit, Republican administrations. I mean, we just gotta get it together. Law enforcement, public safety is job number one. And if the municipalities and cities can't do it, well, someone's got to get the job done. I see this as a winning formula, especially just from a political perspective, leading into the midterms and even beyond into 28.
Dr. Tobler, we are learning after the tragic aftermath of Charlie Kirk's shooting that the accused, and I like Tim's term instead of alleged, the accused shooter was in a romantic relationship with a young man who is transitioning to a woman. Your thoughts on that?
I never cease to be amazed at how in the light of that, and it came out fairly early over the weekend that was the case, that the left continues to double down and say that there isn't some kind of delusional run towards this crazy anti-biological transitioning, just epidemic we have in this country, and how then that, because they're aligned on the left, turns into some kind of a if you raise some questions about that, if you think maybe there's a better way than taking young people and turning them into something they're not, and that God didn't meant them to be, even if you're an atheist, that biology didn't mean them to be. Hey, here's a novel idea. Let's give the guy who has gender dysphoria male hormones rather than female hormones. How's that sound? I mean, what a novel idea. And then to equate a critique of that, a common sense Charlie Kirk-esque kind of a discussion, which most of us have most of the time, and turn that into some kind of equivalent of, it becomes that's political violence. Therefore, that's verbal violence. So therefore it becomes political violence and the justification for it. There's a certain madness on the left that's expressed both in the support and absolute, unequivocal, non-questioned endorsement of everything from abortion to, in this case, transitioning. And it doesn't bode well for either their brand and, frankly, for the country. Although I'm more optimistic when I see the vigils, not only nationally and internationally, that have gone on. I mean, maybe in a very ironic and sad way that it had to happen this way. Maybe a lot of people have been really awakened, even people who may have been sort of, complacent about the ridiculous, delusional statements coming from the left on transitioning and on so-called hate speech is the equivalent of political violence. Sorry, it ain't. Maybe there is a new dawning, a true turning point towards the right direction in America. I hope.
Yeah, Doc, following up on that, despite the fact that the left successfully dragged our culture ever so incrementally, down that slippery slope of, that dystopian, godless America that we've been, the brainwashing at the higher institutions. Doc, it seems like with what's happened, all culminated by this political assassination, that the giant bucket of cold water seems to have been dumped on the American consciousness. And it's horrific that it took an assassination to get us to this point. But I think people are realizing, Doc, how just utterly demonic the left has become. And I'm wondering if that wake up in the culture could result in a political awakening as well, and could defy the odds for Republicans next year. If as you said, Doc, the left keeps tripling down on the insanity that most Americans are now recoiling from. What say you?
Well, you're right. I don't think they realize, because they're so blinded to it. I mean, I think if you get into a cult mentality and you sort of get into this, unjustified, absolutely unjustified Alamo mentality, you don't realize the permanent, deep, damage that's done to your brand and to your party in this case, because the party's been taken over by the woke left. And, I think the GOP is going to need a little help going into the midterms, because I think we got some rough waters ahead economically. But we know that in the 24 election, economy was probably number one, but close behind it was the transgender issue along with immigration, So I think law and order is going to move up to replace immigration now that is at least, in process. The border's been sealed. Now we just have to get rid of all the germs that came in. Oh boy, that's going to get me into trouble, isn't it? I'm using a medical analogy. First you stop the bleeding, then you clean up the mess. And yeah, that's going to go on. But I think that law and order is going to replace the immigration deal. And I really believe that now that the light has clearly been shown on the delusion of the left, and in the light of this just very public, horrific, when you mentioned it at the start of the conversation here, my heart sunk. Every time I hear and think about it, I wish I wouldn't have seen that. And it just keeps looping in my mind every time it's brought up. But it's going to keep looping in reasonable Americans' minds, even those who may have become a little bit lulled into, sort of, well, okay, if they want to be a little crazy and endorse transgender, I'm just going to go to work, pay my bills, try to stay out of the fight. I think people are going, wait a minute. And isn't that the American way? It took 9/11, sadly, to get the churches filled that night, and for the next months and years, churches have been filled, and TPUSA, signups for new chapters are just pouring in. My daughter tells me, she's homeschooling our oldest granddaughter, and she said that TPUSA released their entire homeschool curriculum free of charge the other day for
wow.
Yep. And again, that's what she told me, and she did it. She has another curriculum, but she's going to integrate that into that. But what a beautiful expression of what they're actually about, right? To do that kind of a maneuver in the wake of this. So for anyone out there who is homeschooling or thinking about it, check it out.
Dr. Tobler, in the aftermath of the Charlie Kirk murder, we've been hearing a lot of discussions about the algorithms being blamed for the coarsening of our culture, and I agree with that. Also, we learned last week that Meta suppressed research on child safety. Their employees say. That was a Washington Post article. Your thoughts overall on the social media being a cancer on our society, as the governor of Utah said last week?
Yeah, look, there's no doubt about it. I think we all know in our own personal lives how it creates anxiety, the FOMO of just missing a birthday 2 days ago because you didn't check that particular tab on your Facebook. It is truly, I think, become a challenge to figure out how do we use this tool. It's a magnificent tool if used properly, but not have a net detriment to ourselves, psychologically, physically, and especially with our children, the vulnerable kids. My God, I've never seen so much anxiety in young people, from adolescents even up into their 20s and early 30s. Anxiety is just rampant, and I'm trying to figure. Really, is that Suddenly, has there been an anxiety virus that's found its way into, did Hunan province make an anxiety virus? I don't think so. It's the environment that we're living in that we've created. And technology has evolved faster than our brains can evolve to manage it. And we really have to be cognizant of it. We have to protect our children. That's why the no cell phones in school law is the best thing to pop up Kleenex in Missouri, as far as I'm concerned. Well, until redistricting and IP reform came around.
Randy, we really do, as human beings, need to truly understand the phrase, go out and smell the roses, right? And we also need direct social contact, not over screens, not via text thumbs, but we've got to put the phones away, all of us, right? Even as adults, we got to put those away. We got to go take a walk around the block, smell the fresh air, look at the sunshine, the clouds, and also have direct human eye-to-eye contact. We need that as human beings, right?
There's no doubt about that. I see that in the practice. I have patients who are distant patients that we see virtually, but I insist on seeing them in person periodically, because we all know it. There is just something about being in the same room, across the table, in the seat next to the person, having a conversation when you can read the entire communication stream, right? The body language, the facial language, we're just never going to replace that personal relationship. We're in a resort community with the family, and it saddens me when we're out and eating dinner and I see a family there in this beautiful setting, and what a great time for a family to sort of connect with one another and put all the worries aside of the daily school and work and all that. Everyone's buried in their phones. Oh my God, it breaks your heart. And I think we just have to all have a little gut check now and then. And look, I think we've all been guilty of that, right? It's like you're there, but you're not present because you're lost in your technological world. And like I say, look, it's one thing for us adults to try to cope with it. Can you imagine what it's doing to children? They have no sense of self-regulation on that. Zero sense. It's our jobs as responsible adults and citizens to regulate it. And I don't know whether that regulation should come. How far does the government need to regulate it? As much as just parents and adults and people in authority to remind kids, like, hey, put that thing away. Let's have a convo.
October last week, Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick said that President Trump has sent letters to the CEOs of major prescription drug companies. He's asking for a binding commitment on price reductions, bringing manufacturing back to the U.S. and direct consumer sales. And then a few days later, the Trump administration announced a crackdown on misleading pharmaceutical ads. Is this a good idea?
It's funny. There's a lot made of the pharmaceutical ads, and all it's done in my world, and I think if you ask most docs, is just bring patients to the table, asking about their condition, and hey, is this new medicine that much better than the generic that's available that I've been taking that may be a little less convenient? Maybe it's a twice a day dose or 3 times a day rather than the daily dose. Is it really worth it? And these days, for many patients, it's a moot point. Because, they can see all the commercials and the good stuff, the bad stuff too, in terms of the side effects. Sometimes those are way overblown. But it really becomes a moot point because most of the insurance companies just aren't going to cover it. You have to climb the ladder of all the other treatments first before you can get into that and get insurance coverage without an act of Congress practically. And even then, when the doctor goes and tries to appeal it, they're not covered. So, ads, I don't know. It's just sort of I think it's popular for RFK to get out there and wave the flag and say, we're going to demonize the pharmaceuticals. I don't like the idea of demanding that they during the commercials broadcast, I think they said any complication. Well, that's a sticky wicket because people have things happen and symptoms that happen that are absolutely irrelevant to the medicine, but by law, because they're reported as happening while a person is on medicine. If Tim starts a medicine today and gets a headache 6 months from now, in the right study, in the right context, in post-marketing surveillance, that has to be listed as a potential complication. Well, do you really want that on an ad? Is that really fair? Look, we can criticize pharmaceuticals all day long, but maybe, just maybe, there's a person who might actually benefit from that newfangled brand name pharmaceutical that is dissuaded from it by something that really is either at such low prevalence in the reporting, or it has nothing to do with it, but it had to be reported. It's got to be a little more nuanced, I think, than any and every side effect, alleged side effect that's happened with a medicine. I just think we have to be careful. It may actually take a tool out of our tool chest that some patients may benefit from.
And just a quick update. The FDA says the commercials downplay serious risk, present false information, or mislead viewers by showcasing happy dancing patients.
It's popular. Look, I don't know. Look, I don't have any investment in pharmaceuticals unless it's through some mutual fund that I really am so distant from. I'm not an investor. I just, my gal handles the money and that's it. Okay.
You make it, she handles it.
I want to make that disclaimer. Okay. But look, people love to demonize pharma until they have cancer, until they're in the hospital and they need pharma, until they have a serious lupus encephalitis and they need pharma, until they need a hepatitis C drug that cures them of hepatitis C, which is very expensive, but by golly, that used to be basically cirrhosis or liver cancer, maybe both in that order, right? So, I mean, we got to be careful. Pharma does a lot of good work. And yes, like any industry that gets very powerful and can influence regulation and regulators and politicians, got to keep our eye on them, got to be skeptical. We have to verify, trust but verify in my book. But I want to be careful about demonizing them. It's a popular thing to do these days. But my daughter told me about a friend of hers who didn't want any part of pharma, got very ill, and was very glad that she had pharma to get her out of that trouble. So we just have to think about that. I would invite all people who are critical of pharma to say, look, I'm not going to use any pharma drugs when I get really sick. Does that make a lot of sense? No. We need to make them responsible. We need to get them out the business of regulating and being a part of FDA. Absolutely. And we need to let good faith scientists do their job. And many of those people do exist at the FDA. Get them out of the DEI world and get them into the test tube and Bunsen burner world and have them do some good research, and let's get it out there.
This segment was not brought to you by Pfizer. I said that for our good friend Ken Williams, Doc.
Thank you. Yeah, I always feel like I've got everyone's got their little Tobler voodoo doll with the Pfizer T-shirt sticking their needles in it, right?
Indeed, Doc. Have a great time down there in the land of freedom and sunshine, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, Doc.
All right, see you next time.
All right, 5:47 of the PM. Take a quick break. We're gonna be right back with everything you need to know you may have missed and preview Larry Connor's USA. All that straight ahead. Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show, 1019 94.1 News Talk STL.
You know he's in tune with the season. Come in, baby, tell me why you leaving. Tell me if it's that you need.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps, driving the leftist crazy all afternoon.
She's looking in my eyes, most you other guys. Are you telling me this is a sign?
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. More hot weather on the way the next 2 days. A low of 66, kind of mild in the morning, but mostly sunny and heats up quickly on Wednesday with a high of 92. Not overly humid, so no heat index. That's good news, but it's still a hot one again on Thursday. Mostly sunny and a high of 93. We'll get into at least slight rain chances as we head into Friday and cool it back down into the 80s through the weekend. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
The Vic Porcelli Show.
Wednesday at 10:05, we will get Ultra MAGA Speaker of the House, Tim Jones, to tell us what he thinks about Charlie Kirk. We'll honor a veteran at 11:05.
Weekday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL.
Hey, if you're looking for a live and local bank, choose one that just doesn't look at you as a number on the screen. You want people to know your name and understand your community. And that's why I've been banking with Royal Banks of Missouri for over 20 years, and they've been in business for over 60 years, helping families just like yours and businesses just like yours right here in the St. Louis succeed. They're also celebrating another milestone back at the beginning of the month, September 2nd. They opened their brand new University City headquarters at Olive and McKnight. They're bringing their corporate home back to where it all began in U City. Royal Banks has 16 convenient locations across St. Louis, St. Charles, Illinois, and even in Northeast Missouri. Royal Banks, they're still locally owned, They're independent and they're here to stay. Whether you need everyday banking or commercial financial solutions, you'll find their personalized service is second to none. Visit royalbanksofmo.com to learn more. royalbanksofmo.com, Royal Banks of Missouri, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Tom Shaw Realtors has been helping sell, buy, lease property all over Missouri for almost 100 years. Call him, 636-532-1922, or visit shawrealtors.com.
Hi, I'm Dr. Alan Link, owner of the Dental Link. You've heard ads about teeth in a day, but did you know that you will be chewing on plastic, acrylic teeth? Here at the Dental Link, we can give you porcelain crown and bridge teeth utilizing mini dental implants that function much more like real teeth at about half the cost. Plus, mini dental implants are less invasive, less painful, and your recovery time is much shorter. Give us a call at 314-794-6464 or simply visit us today at thedentallink.com.
Chris Arps here, and after Becky and I leave church on Sunday, we head down the street to Capriotti's to grab a classic meatball sub. And of course, for dessert, I get a giant chocolate chip cookie. I love Capriotti's, and you will too.
On Manchester at McKnight in Rock Hill.
If you do want me, give me little sugar. If you don't want me, don't leave me on down. But if you need me, show me that you love me. And when I'm feeling blue and I want you,
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
you should do. Just give me some kind of sign, girl. Oh, my baby, to show me that you're mine, girl. Oh, yeah.
The world mourning the loss of legendary actor and director Robert Redford. With his piercing blue eyes and unmistakable presence on screen, the California native's breakout role came in the 1969 Western Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, opposite Paul Newman.
I want to fight him. They'll kill us. Maybe. You want to die? Do you?
He would go on to star in other classics like The Sting
Shaw's been planning to beat your game for months. He's just been waiting for you to cheat him.
and All the President's Men.
I wouldn't quote you even as an anonymous source.
His publicist saying in a statement that Redford passed away at his home at Sundance in the mountains of Utah, the place he loved, surrounded by those he loved, adding he will be missed greatly.
5:52 on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show. We talked about it a little earlier in the show about the passing of the great Robert Redford, who was also a political activist and later became a director and producer and founded the famous Sundance Music Festival. Joy, I want to ask you, you know, is he part of that genre that they always say the last golden age of Hollywood movie star? Would you put him in that, or he's a little past that range? You know, the 40s, 50s movie stars came out in the 60s, but would you put him in that genre of one of the great movie stars of that era?
Yeah, I sure would. Yeah. I mean, who would you put in that today? I mean, maybe George Clooney, but man, a lot of people don't believe in his politics, and he's made a lot more duds than Robert Redford did. You know, one of the first acting scenes I had to do in my high school acting class was from Ordinary People, which he won the Oscar for directing. And then I just watched 2 months ago this great movie, The Candidate, where he's running for Senate.
Oh, yeah.
As a Democrat in California, because that's the only way you could win. You don't really know which way he believes, but he knows he has to run as a Democrat. And his morals just keep getting tested because you got to do whatever it takes to win. I really recommend The Candidate. I'm going to watch Sneakers tomorrow. I've never seen that one. It's about hackers and Russians.
Yeah, good movie.
Is he considered a great actor, or because he was a very good looking man that made up for lack of acting talent, or did he have both?
I think he was great. I mean, you could make just The Sting and Butch and Sundance and you could be considered retired. Like, you don't have to make anything else after that. And then you make All the President's Men on top of that. I mean, he has like 10 all-time greats. And I'm looking at his list right now. There's a ton I've never watched. There's a bunch of Westerns that I never got to. Was it Jeremiah Johnson?
Jeremiah
I remember
Johnson.
that one. Yeah, that's a classic.
That one.
That's a classic.
And then all the movies he produced and directed that you never saw him in, but he's known for those credits as well. Yeah, I think he was generally brilliant, well-rounded.
The last movie that I ever saw Robert Redford in, and was kind of a cheesy movie. You guys remember the movie where he was a multimillionaire and he wanted to sleep with Demi Moore, and he offered.
What was that called?
I don't know, but he offered her. And the whole premise was Demi Moore and Woody Harrelson were married, and they were having financial difficulties, and they ended up going to some restaurant, and Robert Redford was infatuated with her and said, you know, I'll give you $1 million if you let me sleep with your wife.
Was that one of his stinkers?
I don't know. It's kind of
it's indecent proposal.
That's what it was. Yeah.
Okay.
And just like any movie from the 90s like that, where it was kind of a trashy, Basic Instinct, Fatal Attraction type movie, they've made a TV show out of it.
Oh, really?
They've stretched it out to 12 episodes, and I don't think anyone really needs to see a movie of that plot for like
was that one of those
long.
Was that one of those movies where they said to Robert Redford, we're going to pay you this amount of money to do this, and it was like, yeah, you're just paying me too much money to turn this down, even though the concept's kind of cheesy.
I mean, how could you even put Woody Harrelson up against Robert Redford? Like, all right, yeah, let's do this.
You're exactly right on that one. It was like, and I think if I remember, I think she did. A movie came out in 92 because I remember 92, 93 summer. I think she did sleep with him, or I don't know. Tim, you had some thought there?
Joey, I never heard of this movie that got apparently critically acclaimed. One of his last gigantic movies he made. 2013, he made a movie called All Is Lost, where he was a mariner out in the Indian Ocean and he got lost or something. And sounds like Castaway or something.
Exactly. Like those survival movies, you're instantly locked in. How would I survive this? I just watched The Edge with Anthony Hopkins fighting a bear with Alec Baldwin. Same thing. You're just instantly thinking, if I was naked and afraid, how would I survive? So that's what All Is Lost is. It's like Robert Redford acting.
Did you watch it?
Yeah.
Was it good?
It is good.
Okay. All right.
Him and an ocean and a boat. That's who he was acting
Old Man
in.
in the Sea.
Yep.
Yeah.
Kind of nostalgia for me here. I don't know if you heard about this last week, but Oliver North, who's not in the news very often anymore, got married to Fawn Hall. And back during the Iran-Contra days, she was his secretary. And she got a lot of notoriety because she ferreted out some documents in her skirt and boots and everything.
Yeah.
They always said during that, we're not having an affair. There's nothing going on. So 30, 40 years later, they end up getting married. The only reason I bring that up is I was always into public events and politics, but watching those Iran-Contra hearings that summer, I was riveted and I was like, I'm in. I love politics. This is absolutely amazing. So kind of nostalgia there. The Iran-Contra affair hearings really started me on my political journey and really getting into it.
So those two are a couple of young lovebirds, huh?
Yeah, they're pretty. Ollie Moore's got to be 80s at least.
Be.
So
Yeah.
you finally got the girl, I guess. All right. Coming up, Larry Connors USA. He's going to talk about how to walk the knife's edge regarding hate speech. And Kash Patel faces a congressional hearing. That's Larry Connors USA up next. You've been listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL. Drive safe and have a great evening.
Is your portfolio prepared for the biggest risks facing investors today? Hi, it's Tim Jones. High inflation and a rapidly changing economy may impact your investments. If you haven't made appropriate changes, your portfolio may not be positioned to address some of the biggest risks in today's economy. That means it's time to request your free portfolio review from the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel. You can hear their latest views on the markets and investments